Hey everyone, welcome to week 3 of film appreciation. I'm going to run through some of the concepts in your reading and hopefully draw your attention to some interesting things about the film you're going to watch this week. So let's get started. So, this week we're talking about the studio system, the star system, what these early movie production studios really looked like. We're also going to talk, about who some of these famous stars were, how they worked, and then I'll introduce you to your film this week. So, starting with the star system and what we call the studio era, this was around 1920s, 1940s, the beginning of the golden age of Hollywood. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but uh, the early Hollywood studios, so we think of movie making and everything as something that really happens in Hollywood. Well, that was established during this time. So the early film industry was a little crazy as it was getting established and starting to produce some of these iconic movies that we'll talk about later. But there was kind of a fight between the Edison Trust, and these other filmmakers that wanted to produce work because the Edison Trust really controlled the patents and really the equipment that was used to make films at this time. And so, because they owned those patents and they were really the experts in that equipment, in a sense, they wanted to control all of that. But of course, there were all these other filmmakers that knew this technology was available. So they wanted in on that. So things were a little crazy at that time, and eventually other film studios emerged. But also, Hollywood was chosen as the ideal location for filmmaking for a lot of reasons. But a couple are just because the weather is great. You can shoot outside, and also the diverse landscapes. Hollywood has lots of different kind of climates and areas that you can film, and you can stage that to be different parts of the world, for example, if you wanted to. So after this kind of fight among the Edison Trust and other filmmakers, these film studios started to emerge. So you'll read about this in your reading this week, but we had kind of the majors and minors, the big five, the little three, and then what they called the poverty row studios. So the big five, you probably heard of these before. They're still around today, except for RKO. MGM, Paramount, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox. These emerged during this time. Smaller ones, Universal, Columbia, United Artists. Then these Poverty Row studios, they were just the lower budget studios, Monogram, Republic, PRC. So looking at this studio system during this time, they really kind of owned their stars. The stars were locked in. They didn't have much of a choice. Once they signed a contract, they were really at the service of the studio. So they didn't really get much choice of a role. The studio had a lot of control over, obviously, the films they were in, but also what their public persona was. And they really kind of intruded often on their personal life because they had to really perform everywhere they went. I think we probably see that now to an extent, but at that time, uh, you can really say that the studios had a lot of control over the stars. So each of these studios kind of had their own style, and therefore they also kept certain stars that fit in with that style. So, Paramount was known for sophisticated dramas. Universal was known for more of the horror classics, Dracula, Frankenstein, that kind of thing. So they all kind of developed their own brand and style of filmmaking. And of course, they had their studio stars. Something kind of interesting about this time is that the media was, and I mean, still is, of course, but this was all this is all emerging during this time. But um, what they called fan magazines, now we may think of just maybe certain journalists, but they really kind of controlled the star narratives. People had the audience had this hunger to kind of know who these stars were and kind of imagine them as these people, the same kind of person on and off screen. So you saw a lot of gossip columnists, a lot of publicity stunts, fake romances, scandals, things like that to keep the public interested in these studio stars. So kind of looking again at this star system, which again you'll read about a lot in your book this week. But this star power was really a marketing tool for films. They marketed the film, of course, but it was really all hinging on the star. And they put a lot of effort into their stars. They'd give them makeovers. They would change their names. They would give them these fake backstories sometimes, all to make them look more appealing for their audience. And this picture right here is actually a picture of Rita Hayworth. On the left is kind of where it started. On the right is how it ended, I guess you could say. But obviously, she had an extensive makeover. She even changed her name. Rita Hayworth was very famous. That wasn't her original name. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but that wasn't even her real name. So the studio really invested in their stars and tried to mold them into the kind of star that would attract a lot of audiences and ultimately make the studio a lot of money. They also had strict behavior rules. They actors and actresses really had to act the part that the studio wanted them to act, on stage and off stage, in a sense. They had to really, I really sense that they were really owned by the studios in a way. Also in this film, we see a lot of kind of typecasting. So again, if a studio has hired a actor or actress to fulfill a certain role, a certain type in their movies, they're gonna keep using that type throughout different films that they make. So a good example is Mae West. She was extremely popular during this time, and you're gonna watch a few clips this week of Mae West. She has this kind of sultry, funny, sex symbol, kind of character. She plays that same sort of character in most of her films. Same thing with Charlie Chaplin. The Tramp was a really famous film that he did, but he's kind of this lovable, silly comedian. But this didn't just limit itself to human actors. Mickey Mouse was also around in this time, and um, even in your book, you'll see that Alfred Hitchcock, a famous director, said that Mickey Mouse was the perfect star because, unlike people like Mae West and Charlie Chaplin and other humans that you have to manage that may not want to bend to the will of a studio, Mickey Mouse always did what he was supposed to do because he's a cartoon. So, but again, Mickey Mouse plays the same kind of lovable um, character in every cartoon that you see him in. So this week, you're going to watch a very, very famous film named Casablanca. This is going to be mentioned in your reading, so pay attention to that. This is an excellent film. As you watch this, I want you to think about this idea of the star. Who are the stars in this film? What are their personas? And also, I want you to reflect back on last week and think about the use of lighting, the camera work, things like that. What do you notice as you're watching this film? And be sure to take notes on those things. So, as always, please email me if you have any questions whatsoever. I hope you have a great week. Thanks.